The battle of my two cameras, the Canon 90D versus the Sony A7C. Who will win this battle to the death? Okay, maybe not a battle to the death, but who's gonna I do want to say, if you're looking for any specific part of this comparison, check your video chapters below and you can just check and see whatever you're wanting to see. But guys, with that out of the way, let's start this little battle to the death. First, we need to look at the camera body, and this is where the Sony could be good or bad because it is really compact. For some people, that's going to be awesome, and that's just going to help them out a lot with their taking it around, traveling with it, whatever. But it's also gonna be a con because you're gonna lose some buttons. The Canon 90D is much bigger of a body, but it has a lot more buttons. It just feels better in the hand. The grip is better on the Canon, but the Sony's smaller, easier to travel with. But both of these bodies are well made. Just because the Sony is small and compact doesn't mean that it's not well made. It seems very durable and it's mostly made of metal. A couple things that the Sony doesn't have that the Canon does is a top LCD, so that's pretty cool from the top angle. Whenever you're looking down, you want to see those settings, but honestly, I just didn't use it much. I mean, I understand why you would, but I just personally didn't. But it was really cool to have. Also, the screen quality on the Canon is a little bit better because Sony just hasn't gotten that resolution out of their screens yet. Also, the Canon's is touchscreen, and that sounds like a big deal to most people. It kind of is. I don't use it a lot. Like, I don't really want to rely on touchscreen just to, you know, do my settings, so mostly I use buttons anyway. The Sony does still have touch to autofocus, and that's what I did use the touchscreen for on the Canon, so I didn't really feel like I was missing out on much. But if you do feel like you're losing something, I completely understand why. I just didn't. Okay, next up, let's look at the sensor size. This one's gonna be pretty obvious. Sony, full frame, Canon aps-c. Canon does make full frame cameras obviously, but this is not one of them. I got this A7C as an upgrade starting me into full frame. Sony being full frame is going to help you out a lot with low light capabilities and a good blurry background. I'm filming with the A7C right now actually. I'm at 20 millimeters at 1.8 and this background is pretty blurry right now. You wouldn't really get that with your Canon camera, but that's not needed. You don't have to have it. It's just something I do have, so I use it. I mean, yeah, sure, you can get the Sigma 18 to 35 art for the Canon, but 18 on aps-c is going to be a lot more zoomed in than 20 millimeter on full frame. It's just not the same. Okay, now we're gonna look at usability. This one is gonna be really easy. You guys should already know this one. Canon is much more usable. Sony takes a lot more effort to use, more menu surfing, more everything. But honestly, after you get used to it, it's not bad. Like, I got to using my Canon again whenever I was doing this comparison, and I actually got a little bit lost in the menus of the Canon because I've been using Sony so much, and it really is what you get used to. That's proof. One con with the A7C though is that they did not get the A7S3 or FX3 menus. They got the A7 III menus. That's pretty saddening. I really feel like they could have definitely put them in there. It would have helped a lot. Also, the A7S3 just got Cinetone. I'm way off topic. Okay, I need to get off of that. It just got Cinetone, and yeah, I wish the A7C got that. Anyways, moving on. Canon is more usable, easier to use if you're just trying to get some shots and you don't really want, you know, things being in the way. Now we're going to talk about image quality, and this is where I feel like the Sony might stand out a little bit, but this is very, very subjective, so you might like the Canon much better. It seems like a lot of people actually do like the Canon more, but I just prefer the Sony. I did shoot these little comparisons. They're side-by-side ones, and we're going to look at those, but do keep in mind that these are the base colors right out of camera. They're just on standard. I didn't do any color grading, and that's kind of where the Sony does shine a little bit in color grading. I don't know how they're going to compare. I'm pretty sure Canon's color science is going to be better straight out of camera. Times like these right here, these are color graded. This shot is, and it looks really good in my opinion. So just keep in mind that these are not color graded. So one really big advantage to the Canon is the stabilization. It's the digital and lens stabilization, and right now I bet this looks pretty freaking stable. Bet you're not having much issues seeing what's going on. Yeah, I really do like Canon stabilization. Now on the other hand, Sony's stabilization is pretty trash actually. Like, I'm pretty sure you're probably seeing a lot of jitter going on right now, even though I have it turned on the lens and on the body. There's something you can do to fix this. Okay, so now I have steady shot turned off but it looks much more stable. That's because I'm right now in Catalyst Browse. This will work with the Sony A7C and the A7S III, FX3, FX6, all of their new lines, but we're talking about the A7C right now. It records gyro data, so it knows how to smooth out your shots pretty much perfectly. And right now, there shouldn't be much of any jitter going on. The Sony's gonna be a lot better in low light. Right now I'm at 16 millimeters at f4.5. But the thing is, my ISO is at 12,800 and that's helping a lot right here. The only thing that's lighting me is my bearded dragon's light up there. I can see everything pretty well. Let me take off the hat. My hair is a mess, but dude, it looks a lot better. Let me go ahead and show you the Canon. Okay, so here's the Canon. Does it look bad? Probably not, but it just doesn't look quite as clean in my opinion. These shadows over here probably have a lot more grain in them, but you also have to think the Sony is a full frame and it has that kind of dual native ISO thing at 12,800. Now we're gonna make this really unfair. So we're at f1.8 on the Sony. It just looks really good in low light. Like this is clean. Not gonna have much noise over here or anything. It just looks way better. 1.8 full frame and good low light ISO. So now for some more in-depth comparison on the image quality and just kind of how the camera works and stuff, we're gonna talk about autofocus. Now you're gonna see how these work in the side by side, but honestly, they're both great. I haven't had problems with either one of them. They just work. Dual pixel autofocus and Sony, they're just stepping up their game a lot. They have eye autofocus and video now, which is insane. It just locks right into your eye and you're good to go. All right, now let's look at dynamic range. The Sony definitely wins this one. It does have 13 plus stops of dynamic range, but I couldn't find any numbers on the Canon. I looked around, couldn't find anything, and I don't have a way to test this, so I don't have any real results there, but I can tell you just from looking and using the Canon versus the Sony for the past little while that the Canon definitely doesn't really excel here, but it's not like the worst dynamic range you're ever gonna see. It's just not great. Back to colors real quick. The Sony's colors are actually really good now. I'm actually really impressed. They have stepped up their game a lot straight out of camera with their colors. Like I said, we don't get a Cinetone with this camera, which I find to be BS, but oh well, I guess, you know, it's a more consumer camera. Even if the colors are really good on the Sony, the Canon does definitely win the color department straight out of camera. But you gotta remember, with Sony, color grading is easier. I just don't like color grading the Canon. I don't. I've used the Cine Style profile. I downloaded that from the internet, used it and everything. I just don't like it. I have tried to color grade with Canon and it just always feels, I just dropped my phone, but it always just feels really weird. The colors just don't come out how I want them to. Maybe that's a personal thing, I don't know, but it just, with Sony, I feel like I can get the colors that I was thinking of in my head during the shoot. It does take more work to color grade versus just getting good images straight out of camera, but honestly, it gets to be pretty worth it once you've used a camera enough. If you're going for that optimal image quality, then you're definitely gonna you just want to color grade. Okay, now to sharpness. I'm gonna have to say it, the Sony has a lot better sharpness. The Canon's is still pretty dang sharp, but the Sony just wins. It has that upper edge and I can definitely tell it's more crispy in photos and videos actually is what I've noticed. Even though the Canon has a 36 megapixel sensor, the Sony just seems to be a little bit more crisp. I was really surprised there with the photos, but that's not what this is about. This is more video. Even in video, I think it still has an upper edge. To get that same sharpness on the Canon, I'd probably have to turn it up a little bit, and that would make it look more digital. I actually have my Sony right now at -2. Now you can turn that way more down. I wanted it just kind of right in the middle. But if you keep it to 0, sometimes it can almost be a little bit too sharp. Not even digitally too sharp, but just too sharp. Okay, enough of the word sharp. My final thoughts on the Canon 90D versus the Sony A7C. I like the Sony a little bit more, but this is very subjective. If usability is your main concern and you just want to get the content out, then Canon is definitely gonna be the right choice for you. But if you're wanting to just kind of step up your image quality, you don't care to put in the time and effort to get it, it's fine, you're not worried about it, then go ahead and go with Sony, I would say. I think it's gonna have that upper edge over Canon. Not to say it's bad, not to say Canon doesn't have good image quality. I just prefer Sony's a little bit. But once again, image quality is subjective as well. You might like the Canon more, so I can't really tell you that. That's up to you. I can't recommend that. Sony just has that upper edge in my opinion because you can color grade more, it's better in low light, it's full frame. I don't plan on keeping the Sony A7C forever. Well, I do, but I just plan on using it as a studio camera later on. I plan on getting the A7S III or the FX3. I'm kind of torn right now. Probably going to be a video about that soon, but in the future, whenever I've got enough money, I plan on having one of those cameras, and this will just be my studio camera, and that won't matter to me because I don't need anything crazy for a studio camera. But I will admit, IBIS being bad is kind of annoying. Having to do catalyst browse all the time gets a little annoying, but honestly worth it. Annoying, but worth it. So there's definitely some things that I don't like about the A7C, but overall, it's a great camera, and I just haven't really used the Canon as much since I've had this. But if you're newer to video though, Canon would probably be your better option. You might get a little overwhelmed by this, and honestly, you don't need to spend this much money on a camera. This costs like $1,700. The Canon costs like $1,099 or $1,199, I think. So you'd be saving some money going with Canon, and the lenses are cheaper with Canon. But it just depends on what you need, what you want, and just how you're gonna use your camera. Very subjective. I don't really see it as a war or a battle to the death. I see it more as what camera fits your needs and how do you fit the camera, you know? Like, how is your personality gonna be going with this camera? Are you the type that wants to deal with all this extra stuff that you have to deal with Sony to get that extra image quality, maybe a little bit better image quality, or do you want to sacrifice that image quality a little bit, just get your content and move on? That was me a while back whenever I was first learning filmmaking, so Canon was absolutely perfect for me, and I loved it for years. Still use it, still do love it, but my Sony just does a little bit more for me, so I'm a little bit more happy with it. But I can definitely see why people like Canon. Unless you're just pretty into this by now, you know what you're doing, and you want to see if you can get anything better, and you're willing to put in that work. I know I've said it a bunch of times, but I really, 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 really want people to get that that's what it comes down to. They're not to be fought over, they're just which type of person are you as a filmmaker? What do you want to do? Fast or take a while but get the best image quality? And when I say take a while, it's really not like a long extra while. It's just a little bit longer. Maybe, you know, getting through the menus might be an extra 5 seconds. You know, getting to a certain setting might take an extra 5 seconds. And getting used to a Sony is a lot harder than getting used to a Canon. So there is a learning curve, but that learning curve does go away pretty quick, and then you're good. And then you'll kind of forget how to use Canon. And then when you go back to Canon, you're gonna be like, okay, so menu. Okay, where's the stabilization? Where do I even turn that off at? Where do I even... Okay, where's the stabilization? Dude. What? Oh, okay. There it is. Okay, no, but for real, that's just kind of how it goes. I made that little joke because I was looking for that setting and couldn't find it for a second. It took a minute. Anyways, guys, I really do hope this video helped you guys out a little bit. Maybe helped you decide if you should upgrade to an A7C or if you should stick with your Canon. It really just depends, you know? It depends on your needs, your wants, what you do, how you do it. For some people, it won't even be an upgrade. For some people, it will. For me, it was. I still miss the Canon in certain ways, but honestly, glad I went to Sony. Happy about it. The lenses are great. Low light's great, and it's just a really awesome camera. And it's also gonna help me move on to bigger, better cameras in the future because I have these full frame lenses now. All right, if this did help you guys, be sure to show your support, do whatever you want. You guys have been awesome in the comments lately, and you know, just hit that like button. It really does help me out a lot in the algorithm. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for hanging out with me and talking about cameras for a little bit, but I'll see you guys in the next one.